Hello, Soul Crew. Great to see you in another moment of the now. Today's transmission is very relevant to all of us working on personal development, working on taking accountability for ourselves, for our behavior, and becoming responsible for the lives that we architect for ourselves. The title goes emotional awareness, and there's so much to unpack here, so this will probably be the first of many videos on this topic. Yet the main things that I want to cover in today's transmission is setting up the play field with understanding what do we mean by emotional awareness. And emotional awareness is the state of being aware that we are aware of what we're feeling, what we're going through, where our nervous system at. And through this, we develop emotional intelligence. Being emotional intelligence, the capacity that we have to assess ourselves emotionally. Breaking it down and keeping it simple, our bodies are electric systems, and there's a lot of energy flowing through. Energies, emotions, right? So there's a lot of energies moving through. There's different vibrations at which these energies move through, be it like sometimes a little bit more intense, high and up, more mellow, right? Or sometimes it's completely dysregulated. There's just like complete chaos. All of these are the different emotions that we've come to learn throughout our life, right? Some are higher vibrational, some are lower vibrational, yet emotions are information. More than good or bad or something that needs to be fixed, they're just information. And whatever you decide to do with them and however you decide to integrate them into your system is gonna determine whether you're emotionally regulated or not. And again, emotional regulation is a result of your emotional intelligence. If you're not emotionally intelligent or emotionally aware of what you're going through, you may be telling yourself that you're fine, repeating mantras, or trespassing yourself mentally by creating a rational paradigm, trying to bypass yourself, when in reality, the emotional state of your body is dysregulated, right? Your body is physiologically struggling, and then in your mind you're just trying to trespass or to move on or to forget. Yet it's very hard if you're in a car crash and there's some physical injuries for you to the next day be like, oh, just move on from the accident. It never happened, it's fine, right? Like there's some repercussions and there's some healing to be done. And just like a car crash, there are emotional crashes that also need taken care of. And there's a phrase that I feel it's empowering yet slightly dangerous when we say time heals everything. Yes, if we are in the healing timeline, but if we're not, like if I get a fracture and I don't address it properly and get a cast or get the bone adjusted, it may just heal improperly, right? So there is due diligence to be done, there's healing to be put in place, and then I'll take rest and then my bone will heal properly. But if I just go into an accident and try to move on and keep on going, I may heal in inappropriate ways or ways that create more pain moving forward. So it's like the kind of people that don't take proper time to rest and heal injuries, and then they just develop chronic pains in either their joints or arteries because it didn't heal properly. So even if time helps us heal, because of course that's why we get rest time, and it's like, okay, for 3 months don't move the tendon that you tore. If again I don't treat the tendon properly and I just either rest for 3 months or try to keep on going like the accident didn't happen, time will maybe help me forget at a rational level, but at a nervous system level and at a physiological level, my body's gonna remember. So this is where emotional awareness is, because sometimes emotions can be very vague or very abstract, or we may feel that we went through a trauma and then the next day we woke up and we're completely fine. But creating this emotional awareness is really refining your sensitivity to really go deep into your nervous system and feel where you're at. And that's why most of the times when we're uncomfortable or in a state of discomfort or emotionally dysregulated, we try to do more. So the mind kicks in to try to save you from painful emotions, and then we just make ourselves extremely busy, right? And we dive so deep into work that we just don't address our emotions, or we distract ourselves with instant gratification platforms like social media or food or sometimes abuse substances or habits that are not necessarily helping us. They're just like giving us this short-term gratification, this short-term soothing to help us pretend that we're fine. We're just fine. Everything is fine. And then with time, we just keep repressing and suppressing these emotions. And if you hide your tissues, if you hide your issues, they go into your tissues. And that's why sometimes we develop these mystery illnesses or these chronic pains, and then you keep going to the traditional doctor and they're like, everything comes out well, but you just know you're not feeling well. You just know something's off. That's usually your emotional body trying to let you know that there are, how to say, bills to settle, or like emotions to address, or processes, emotions that have not been processed. So processes do, if you may. And here is where it's very important to focus on our emotional resilience so that we can harness emotions, whether they're comfortable or uncomfortable, and we can process the information these emotions have, and then we begin to regulate our nervous system. Again, when we are in a state of dysregulation, there's all of the science. I'll leave that to the academics, but your frontal lobe is not processing properly, right? So when I am in a fight or flight mode, everything is more exhausting. I get more tired. I don't rest fully. I'm moodier. I'm much more irritable. And then as time goes on, your life stops making a lot of sense because you just feel unhappy. You feel like you're twisted. Your emotions are twisted in some way, and you can't really point to what's happening. And we don't necessarily have to do a regression or go back into the past or relive the past. It's just in the now moment. Your body is out of balance. So whether you want to justify it or rationalize it, that's your own choice of practice. But the bottom line is sitting with yourself, really checking in with your breath. And when you begin to slow down your breathing, the emotions begin to come up. And if they're uncomfortable, you're probably on the right track. And the more you can sit down with yourself and assess these emotions, the more you can regulate yourself. This is what I call emotional constipation. It's more like, no, I don't need to go, and you continue with life. That constipation is going to eventually take over your emotional body. And when your emotional body is saturated, it's going to begin to spill through your nervous system, i.e. directly into your immune system or your joints, or reflect some sort of autoimmune disease or mystery disease. And again, a lot of the root of these things are emotional discomfort that has been chronically suppressed or repressed. So bringing emotional awareness to our day-to-day, like any other muscle, is a practice, right? We don't have to tackle the biggest things first. We just start with our day-to-day and just taking time to stop in between activities, just making sure that you're not stacking up one activity after the next so that you keep running away from your emotions, but that we really sit in. Touching base with your senses, it's very important. For example, whenever you have a dry mouth, it means that you're out of touch with your nervous system because you haven't realized that you may be dehydrated or that you may be needing more liquids. That's one of the strongest indicators that we are dysregulated. When we constantly have like a dry mouth, it means that we're rushing faster than our bodies can catch up with us. Catching up with your senses, right? Your skin, how does your skin feel? Can you pick up on the temperature or humidity in the environment? Can you pick up on the scents? Can you be conscious about your environment? Dimension the room that you're in. Feel your feet in the ground. Begin to feel how you're sitting, your posture. And it's really not like rocket science. And sometimes it sounds so simple that we're like, oh, I'll do it later. But I can promise you that 1 minute of awareness can really impact the rest of an hour. Almost, right? So the longer your practice becomes, the better. But even if you can just do it at small bits at a time, it impacts how you unfold. For example, if I'm hunching and I'm like this for an hour, I'm going to be very tight. But if I take a minute to become aware of my posture and lengthen and release the tension, I'm going to be in a way better posture for the next hour. This is on the physical realm, but on the emotional realm, the same happens. If I have an unpleasant circumstance or a situation and I'm just like, oh, it's fine, like I'll just give it some time, and I just keep on moving through the next activities without really feeling through the information. Like your nervous system, your emotions are trying to tell you, hey, this situation trespassed you. Hey, I don't feel safe. Hey, I feel extremely sad. I feel extremely angry. And the emotional resilience is allowing yourself to feel through this, give yourself the time and space to develop the capacity to navigate the emotions. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to take action, that you have to do something, that you have to drop everything that you're doing. It means that you give yourself the time to feel safe. And I love the question, what is happening inside of me? Nobody's saying that you have to change anything, that you have to fix anything. It's just asking yourself, what's happening inside of me? And then you follow up with, what do I need in order to feel safe right now to feel? Because a lot of the times when we don't allow ourselves to feel is because we don't feel safe, right? So the first step is creating that environment for yourself so that you can have contrast. It's very hard to first and foremost go outside of your environment and try to fix things. It's more important to start within. Are you able to create a safe space for yourself to feel through your emotions, to build resilience, to be like, okay, that was uncomfortable. Okay, that's painful. Okay, I'm angry. That's happening. And I'm self-aware. I'm aware of being aware. I'm aware of the feelings that are coming through versus becoming that. It's very different to say, I am angry versus I am aware that anger is arising. And that's even how vocabulary becomes so subtle, but we become possessed by the emotions, whether I'm angry or I'm happy or I'm anything, right? I lose myself. And the important thing here in soul strength is to keep your soul at the center first and foremost, and becoming aware of what you're experiencing, recognizing that you're not what you're experiencing, you're not your emotions, they're not a problem, and they're not something that need to be fixed. It's just something that you become aware of. Something happens in my environment and I'm like, oh wow, I'm aware that anger is arising. Oh wow, those situations make me angry. Okay, now I have more information in order to navigate myself more savvy, to take care of my emotions, to realize that my sensitivities are my superpowers. My sensitivities are indicating me what resonates with me and what doesn't. And maybe if everybody else gets along, but for me it creates resistance or friction, that's something worth of exploring, right? Whether there's a shift needed inwards, or and maybe because I just need to change my attitude because I'm in a snappy place and I just have to figure out that it's not as bad as it seems, but because I'm dysregulated, it feels as bad as it seems. It genuinely feels, and that's where we have to legitimize the emotions, not to become the emotion, not to necessarily react on the emotion, just to acknowledge that that piece of information, that piece of energy is flowing through your system. Allowing yourself to feel through what you're feeling. It doesn't mean that you have to accept what's happening outside of yourself. It doesn't mean that you have to accept things that are trespassing you. It means that you begin to accept the information passing through your system, letting you know how you are feeling. But sometimes it's like, oh, I don't want to address that situation because it's uncomfortable, so I'm gonna bypass the information in my system telling me that this is not a safe environment for me, right? So it's like, it's a bit of a puzzle, but to start somewhere, start within yourself. Start checking in emotionally with yourself. What's happening inside? And what do you need in order to feel safe? Because unless you become aware, it's very hard to ask others and have our needs met if we're not even clear what we need, if we're just uncomfortable, if we're just snappy, if we're just like repressing, or if we're just tapping out of our reality. Because when we tap out, other energies take place and then life begins to happen to us. Do you want your life to happen for you? It's very different when your life happens for you, and that's when you're in active mode, when you're in first person mode. You're not tapping out or disconnecting. So to summarize a little bit of the ideas, keep in mind your capacity for emotional awareness. How aware can you be of the emotions that you're feeling without tapping out? How aware can you be of the degree of discomfort that you're feeling without being reactive, without suppressing, without putting something else on the to-do list so that you don't have to address that? And again, just minutes at a time are more than enough. Just sitting in, feeling through, be like, oh wow, this is extremely uncomfortable. Okay, check, that's all it was needed. Nobody needed you to fix anything, just to realize the information is there. No response needed. It's just for you to become more aware of what you're feeling at the time, at the moment, so that your nervous system can self-regulate itself more regularly without like repressing itself for days, weeks, months, let alone years. Some people have been repressing themselves for years on end, and they develop this weird chronic back pain. It could be also bad posture, right? But one thing takes you to the other. When I'm feeling sad, when I'm feeling low, when I'm feeling low vibration, my body language will probably reflect that. When I'm feeling empowered, when I'm feeling present, when I'm feeling aware, my body changes, because when I'm present, my vibration is different. And again, I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm just saying, are you aware that you're aware? Are you aware of what you're feeling, of how you're feeling, instead of becoming it? And as you develop your emotional intelligence, you begin to navigate situations much more smoothly. It takes way less effort to get things done, to communicate with people, because you're less volatile, you're less impulsive, you're able to observe things without taking them personally. You're like, okay, they said this, I'm aware, anger is arising, but I'm not my anger. Okay, I'm realizing that I don't like when people talk to me like that, right? And the more you get familiar with that, you learn how to navigate your needs, and then you learn how to express them, and then you become way better at setting boundaries and consequences along with that. And the bottom line is that you become more resilient to life, and life begins to happen for you, not to you. Oh, why did this happen to me? No, why is this happening for me? Oh, yeah, I didn't have boundaries over there. Now I recognize that. So this is a self-recognition process, recognition, cogniting, like the cognition of becoming back into yourself and recognizing your own boundaries, your own needs, your own capacities. Everybody has different emotional capacities. Everybody has their own bandwidth. Everybody has their own genetic predisposition. Everybody has their own assignment. So here, what I want to share with you is this nugget so that you can begin to wire your own blueprint. Through your own self-awareness, get to know yourself better, because everybody has a unique formula. Yet emotional resilience will make the game much more fun, because everything becomes less personal. Everything is easier to navigate as you're able to check in with yourself on a short span, if you may. Like, you don't let years to go by to realize that you have this mystery illness because you're a people pleaser and you repress your emotions. But in the day-to-day, you're able to sit with the discomfort of being maybe an overly sensitive person and feeling that everybody's trespassing you. It's okay. And then you take your measures, and then you dimension yourself, and then you learn how to navigate your capacities. Remember, your sensitivities are an indicator of your capacities. They're not a weakness. There's nothing wrong with you. If you're extra sensitive to the sun, that's how your skin operates, and it's fine. And then you can learn how to navigate it differently and how to adapt. But if I don't recognize that I have a sensitivity, then I may just end up damaging myself. Right? And I can't keep comparing myself or averaging myself to everybody else, because we each have different capacities, just like our senses, our eyesight. Like I said, every sense, we are dimensioned in a very unique way. So I invite you to take a deep dive into your own blueprint, into your own soul, discover your divine design, discover that your sensitivities are guiding you towards your strengths as well. Because if you're extra sensitive, it also indicates that you are very perceptive in one way or another. So I really invite you to explore that. And my life changed when I realized my hypersensitivity was a superpower and not a weakness. For so long, I was like, oh, I'm hypersensitive, or I'm hyper this, or everything gets to me. And then once I realized, like, oh, it's getting to me for a reason, because I'm very perceptive. And how can I use that perception in my favor instead of being a victim of the world? And it's like a day and night shift. And then you just empower yourself. You become resilient. With great power comes great responsibility. With great sensitivities comes great responsibility to learn how to navigate yourself. Nobody's responsible for your happiness. Nobody's responsible for necessarily following up with your boundaries if you don't do first. If you don't have consequences, and if you're not firm with them, why would other people care? Why would other people take you seriously if you don't respect yourself first and foremost? People will show you the respect you give yourself. Respect is not something that you demand, it's something that is earned. So the more you can be balanced, the more you can be regulated, the more you can ask for your needs in a clear manner and be consequential with how you're treated, people begin to shift around you, and they will either like you more and become closer, or they'll eventually fade away from your life, because it's not the vibration, and that's also part of the evolutionary process. So this went a little bit longer than expected. There was a lot to unpack. I pray that this meets you in a way that is beneficial to the evolution of your soul. And if it resonates, or there's anything you want to share or anything that I can help you expand or elaborate on, please feel free to start a conversation. I'm always happy to connect and bring forth more insights on what's relevant and of interest to you. And that's all for this transmission, and I'll see you in another moment of the now.